Stop right there. Stop sign. That simple quarter in your pocket could be worth thousands of dollars, even a small fortune. Money bag. I'm talking about rare Washington quarters that look totally normal but have secret minting errors, double strikes, and hidden varieties that collectors are paying insane amounts for. Face screaming in fear. Some of these coins have sold for over $10,000, and most people don't even know they're out there sitting in their change jars or wallets right now. So before you spend that quarter on a parking meter or a snack, watch this, because today we're revealing the top 10 Washington quarters worth big bucks you could already have. Fire. Tracing its journey from mint to market and uncovering the quirks that can turn a 25-cent piece into a five-figure treasure. In 1965, rising silver prices forced the U.S. Mint to abandon the 90% silver composition that had defined quarters for generations. By 1970, the new clad coins, copper cores sandwiched between nickel, were the norm. The familiar portrait of George Washington, originally designed in 1932 by John Flanagan, remained on the obverse, while a heraldic eagle graced the reverse. Yet, even with design continuity, each year's striking carries its own story. Philadelphia's presses churned out roughly 136 million circulation strikes without a mint mark. Denver added a small d to about 417 million of its issues, and San Francisco quietly produced around 2.6 million proof coins, reserved for collectors and bearing that mirror-like sheen. Those millions suggest rarity would be scarce, but within that sea of metal, fascinating error varieties slipped through. Begin your inspection with the mint mark and planchet. Business strikes from Philadelphia are unmarked. Denver coins carry a subtle D just below Washington's ponytail. Proofs from San Francisco sport an S and glint like a tiny mirror. But it's the imperfections that thrill collectors. Off-center strikes shift the design toward one side, leaving a blank expanse on the opposite rim. Double-die obverse create ghostly shadows on letters or dates, as if two impressions overlapped. Clipped planchets reveal a crescent of missing metal, and in rare instances, entire rims fail to form. One legendary piece even shows a faint outline of an 1898 gold coin beneath the modern eagle, an overstrike so dramatic it melds 2 centuries in a single fluke. The difference between a face-value quarter and a numismatic superstar often boils down to error severity, grade, and backstory. A mild die crack or slight RPM, repunched mint mark, might push a coin's worth into the tens or low hundreds. But bold off-center strikes exceeding 50% of the design area or overstruck errors exposing ghost designs can shatter price expectations. Not long ago, an overstrike error, where a San Francisco proof quarter accidentally landed on a gold $5 planchet, crossed the auction block at nearly 6 figures. It had been hiding in a button collection, mistaken for costume jewelry, until a curious collector spotted the gold lettering beneath the eagle's wings. Standard uncirculated 1970 quarters in mint state 67 seldom fetch more than a couple $1,000s at specialist auctions. Yet errors in comparable grades can roar into 6-figure territory. That gap speaks to collectors' hunger for true anomalies, coins that break the rules of manufacture. A Denver business, the 1972 and the 1979, each carrying its own tales of rarity, minting quirks, and collector fervor. We'll start by unlocking the secrets of the 1972 quarter, how it rose from everyday pocket change to a prized find, what to look for under magnification, and why you might want to peek inside your change jar tonight. As someone who's handled countless rolls and studied the minute differences between mint marks, you know that the right coin can turn an ordinary collection into something truly extraordinary. Let's dive right into the story of the 1972 quarter and find out why so many seasoned collectors still chase this silver-clad superstar. When the U.S. Mint struck the 1972 quarter, the nation was transitioning away from precious metal coinage. Although quarters had carried 90% silver until 1964, by 72 they were a copper-nickel-clad composition. Yet, that didn't stop certain specimens from achieving near-mythic status. The Denver and Philadelphia mints each produced hundreds of millions of these coins for everyday circulation, but a handful escaped heavy wear and found their way into collections, bank vaults, and time capsules. Beyond sheer survival, A small subset reveals strikingly sharp details and a mirrored field, the telltale sign of a proof-like finish usually destined for special sets rather than pocket change. It's this unintended proof-like quality, born from polished dies and careful handling at the mint, that elevated the 1972 quarter from mere monetary token to sought-after collectible. Digging deeper into the origin story, the Philadelphia Mint's approach to die polishing that year was unusually meticulous. A few dies were polished to a mirror sheen, likely to test new die maintenance procedures, and then pressed into service for circulation strikes. Coins produced on those dies exhibit frosted relief against a reflective background, mimicking the proof coins sold to collectors. At the Denver Mint, quality control shifts led to occasional pairing of freshly polished dies with lower usage presses, again yielding unexpected proof-like specimens. Those anomalies quietly slipped into coin rolls alongside standard business strikes. For decades, they went unnoticed until eagle-eyed hobbyists spotted the telltale flash of light under magnification and began cataloging the variations. What began as a routine production run became, retroactively, an accidental experiment that fueled a mini fever among collectors. Identifying a proof-like 1972 quarter starts with the naked eye and finishes under at least 5 times magnification. First, look for fields, those flat background areas, so reflective they show distortions like a funhouse mirror. Next, examine the raised elements, Washington's portrait, the eagle on the reverse, and the date. In proof-like examples, these features will have a satiny, frosted appearance, contrasting sharply with the mirror finish behind them. Authentic business strikes lack this contrast. Their surfaces are more matte overall. Be aware of heavy bag marks or scuffs. A genuine proof-like coin will show minimal contact marks, as most saw little circulation. Finally, inspect for doubling on the date or lettering. A small number of 1972 quarters exhibit a weak doubling on "In God We Trust." While not a full-blown doubled die, this subtle shift adds another layer of rarity. When you spot that combination of mirrored fields, frosted devices, and crisp edges, you hold one of the most coveted modern quarters in your hand. As we shift our focus to the 1966 Washington quarter, picture holding one between your fingertips, its once brilliant fields now bearing the gentle patina of 50-plus years in circulation. At first glance, it seems unremarkable. A familiar portrait of Washington, a crisp date, and the eagle aloft on the reverse. Yet this transitional year, sandwiched between the old silver era and the modern clad age, produced a surprising array of subtle die varieties and striking accidents. Beneath that seemingly plain surface lies a playground for specialists who know exactly where to look for the cracks, the doubled letters, and the misfeeds that turn a 25-cent piece into a numismatic prize. By 1966, the U.S. Mint had fully embraced the copper-nickel clad composition introduced in 1965, eliminating the 90% silver planchets that had defined quarters for decades. That change solved the melting for metal crisis, but also sparked collector disappointment and a surge of interest in any lingering silver survivors or unusual die work. The Philadelphia Mint produced roughly 425 million circulation strikes that year, all without a mint mark, while Denver struck about 345 million bearing the familiar D. San Francisco, still producing proof-only coins, struck a modest 1.9 million pieces in the mirror finish proof sets. Those proof coins were sold directly to collectors, not released for pocket change, a separation that makes any proof-like or proof-marked piece found in circulation a compelling rarity. On a standard 1966 quarter, the obverse retains Flanagan Washington portrait with fine hair detail and well-defined drapery lines in the bust. The reverse eagle's feathers should be sharply struck, with clear separation between each plume. Yet within those millions, tiny die adjustments produced at least half a dozen recognized obverse and reverse die marriages, each leaving minute differences in line thickness or die polish lines. Mint mark position on Denver issues shifts slightly from die pairing to pairing, a telltale sign for the trained eye. Planchet quality that year varied too. Some coins show lamination flakes where the copper core separates from the nickel cladding, while others display faint lamination streaks invisible without magnification. Error collectors prize 1966 quarters for a series of die cracks, die chips, and the occasional double die obverse. The doubled 66 date can appear on a handful of Philadelphia strikes, doubling the numerals so faintly that only a magnifier reveals the shadow image. More dramatic are the die chips around the rim, creating small raised blobs of metal that look like freckles along Washington's neck or the Eagle's wings. Broad strikes, where the retaining collar fails to engage and the coin flares out slightly, are scarce but exciting. Clipped planchets, where a curved section of metal is missing, occur when the blanking press overlaps two blanks. A quarter with a 20 to 30% clip can command several $100s in choice grades. One of the rarest 1966 varieties is the proof-like business strike. A handful of Denver business strike dies received extra polishing, producing partially mirrored fields that mimic proof coins. Those pieces slip into circulation unnoticed until someone spots the dazzling reflection. Even more elusive are mule errors, where a quarter die accidentally pairs with a dime reverse. But none have been definitively authenticated for 1966, Shifting gears from the 1967 issue, let's turn our attention to a quarter that marked a very different moment in U.S. coinage history, the 1983 Washington quarter. While the 67 piece embodied a transition away from silver, the 1983 quarter carries the first ripples of a new era defined by evolving designs and minting innovations. National pride and state identity were on the horizon, but in 1983 the mint was still producing classical Flanagan quarters, and, much like in 1967, a surprising array of production quirks crept into the final product. Let's peel back the layers on this oft-overlooked year, uncovering why advanced collectors hunt 1983 quarters for their own set of rare errors and intriguing backstories. By 1983, the Flanagan portrait of Washington had endured for over half a century, yet the mint was already eyeing fresh design concepts. Demand for pocket change remained robust, and the mint's presses in Philadelphia and Denver were running hot, churning out nearly 1.3 billion quarters combined. With such volume, quality control became a constant balancing act. Errors slipped through more frequently when high-speed coining presses dealt with misaligned planchets or subtly flawed dies. Today, those production anomalies, once dismissed as mere curiosities, are prized by collectors who appreciate the juxtaposition of high-volume mintage and low-frequency errors. One of the most sought-after varieties from 1983 involves double die obverse, where multiple hub impressions have shifted ever so slightly. These doublings tend to appear on the lettering, particularly on the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," and occasionally on George Washington's jawline or hair ribbon. While doubling in earlier decades can be more pronounced, 1983 examples often exhibit delicate ghosting that rewards a careful eye. A subtle yet detectable doubling on Liberty in an otherwise clean MS-64 coin can push its value from under $10 into the hundreds when certified strong by PCGS or NGC. Off-center strikes also play a starring role in the 1983 lineup of rarities. At high minting speeds, a planchet sometimes failed to fully seat against the collar, resulting in coins with part of the design missing. A 2 to 3% offset might look like a mild curiosity, but collectors chase misalignments of 5% or greater, where George Washington's bust drifts dramatically toward one rim. Those with 5 to 8% offsets, especially in mint state grades, command anywhere from $50 to $200 at dealer showcases. A handful have even eclipsed $500 when eye appeal is exceptional and fields boast untouched luster. Clad lamination errors, where the outer layers of copper nickel strip away to reveal the copper core, also emerged in '83. These peeled layers often form flaky, irregular patches on the coin's surface, creating a patchwork of metallic shades. Many examples remain in circulation, discarded as dented or flawed, but in reality they offer a direct glimpse into the metallurgy of clad coin production. Uncirculated lamination errors graded MS-60 to MS-62 typically trade between $20 and $50, but standout specimens with large unbroken core exposures have sold for well over $150 at specialist auctions. Mint state survivors of the 1983 quarter can appear deceptively plain at first glance. Surfaces glisten with cartwheel luster, Yet under magnification, you may spot minute die cracks, hairline fissures radiating from the rim into the fields. Although die cracks don't always translate to high premiums, when they form a distinct pattern, such as a spiderweb-like cluster above Washington's head, they become collector magnets. An MS-65 coin with a pronounced die crack network once realized nearly $200 under the hammer, far above the typical $25 range for an error-free MS-65 1983. Auction records underscore how rarity and condition converge. In 2024, a 5.7% off-center Philadelphia strike in MS-63 soared to $1,100 at a major New York sale, fueled by intense bidding among error enthusiasts. That same year, collectors with a keen eye know that within the familiar profile of George Washington lie hidden variations and subtle errors that can command significant sums at auction. Today, we're diving deep into the 1967 quarter, a coin that bridges the era of silver's departure and the dawn of clad composition, yet still manages to surprise seasoned numismatists and casual holders alike with intriguing quirks, dramatic misstrikes, and stories you won't find in every guidebook. Back in 1967, the United States Mint was waging a quiet war against rising silver prices. Just 2 years earlier, dimes and quarters had lost their 90% silver content in favor of a copper-nickel-clad sandwich. But the pressure on Treasury reserves and the public's demand for coins created production bottlenecks. The Mint ran around the clock at Philadelphia and Denver facilities, churning out millions of pieces to keep commerce flowing. The Washington quarter had been a consistent presence since 1932, originally struck to commemorate Washington's bicentennial and designed by John Flanagan. By 1967, that same Flanagan portrait was so familiar that many overlooked the tiny minting nuances waiting to be discovered. Striking off-center errors became especially common as the clamshell-style presses dealt with planchet handling quirks. When a blank slip didn't feed perfectly, the design would collide with the collar unevenly, leaving a crescent-shaped ring of planchet around the rim. A slight 1 to 2% misalignment might look like an amusing fluke, but when the offset reaches 4 to 6%, the missing portion of the design becomes startlingly obvious. Washington's head floating off to one side, or the eagle's wings clipped dramatically. Those coins, graded by eye appeal and offset degree, can trade for anywhere between $50 and $300, depending on the severity and visual impact. Double dies represent another treasure trove for 1967 quarter hunters. Unlike a mechanical processing error, doubling occurs at the hubbing stage, when a die receives multiple impressions that shift slightly between strikes. The result? Lettering or portrait details that flicker with a ghost image. Collectors categorize these as weak, medium, or strong based on how pronounced the doubling is. A medium-strength doubling on the motto, "In God We Trust," might sell for $80 to $120 in uncirculated grades, while a strong example with crisp, clear separation on the date and rim can fetch well over $1,000 if authenticated and slabbed by a major grading service. Mintages can tell part of the story. In 1967, Philadelphia produced roughly 990 million quarters and Denver struck about 432 million. Neither bore a mint mark, making provenance identification nearly impossible without dime markers or packing records. Yet that overwhelming number of coins masks a sliver of rarities. Among those millions, only a small fraction display misalignments, doubling, or planchet lamination issues. When you factor in the attrition of circulation, abrasion, scratches, and corrosion, the survivors in great condition become especially precious. Finding an uncirculated, error-free 1967 quarter in a bankroll today feels a bit like spotting a white whale. Market values for standard uncirculated pieces hold relatively steady. MS-60 examples typically trade for $3 to $5, rising to $10 to $20 in MS-63 and $30 to $50 by MS-65. But slot in an error, and those numbers multiply. A 3% off-center strike in MS-63 can command around $75, while the same coin in MS-65 might break $150. A strong double die in MS-64? Prepare to see invoice prices north of $500. And if you manage to uncover a bold off-center specimen, say 6% or more, in the mid-60s grade. It can amaze bidders to the tune of $2,000 to $3,000 as we shift our focus to the 1966 Washington quarter. Picture holding one between your fingertips. Its once brilliant fields now bearing the gentle patina of 50-plus years in circulation. At first glance, it seems unremarkable. A familiar portrait of Washington, a crisp date, and the eagle aloft on the reverse. Yet this transitional year, sandwiched between the old silver era and the modern clad age, produced a surprising array of subtle die varieties and striking accidents. Beneath that seemingly plain surface lies a playground for specialists who know exactly where to look for the cracks, the doubled letters, and the misfeeds that turn a 25-cent piece into a numismatic prize. By 1966, the U.S. Mint had fully embraced the copper-nickel clad composition introduced in 1965, eliminating the 90% silver planchets that had defined quarters for decades. That change solved the melting for metal crisis, but also sparked collector disappointment and a surge of interest in any lingering silver survivors or unusual die work. The Philadelphia Mint produced roughly 425 million circulation strikes that year, all without a mint mark, while Denver struck about 345 million bearing the familiar D. San Francisco, still producing proof-only coins, struck a modest 1.9 million pieces in the mirror-finish proof sets. Those proof coins were sold directly to collectors, not released for pocket change, a separation that makes any proof-like or proof-mark piece found in circulation a compelling rarity. On a standard 1966 quarter, the obverse retains Flanagan Washington portrait with fine hair detail and well-defined drapery lines in the bust. The reverse eagle's feathers should be sharply struck, with clear separation between each plume. Yet within those millions, tiny die adjustments produced at least half a dozen recognized obverse and reverse die marriages, each leaving minute differences in line thickness or die polish lines. Mint mark position on Denver issues shifts slightly from die pairing to pairing, a telltale sign for the trained eye. Planchet quality that year varied too. Some coins show lamination flakes, where the copper core separates from the nickel cladding, while others display faint lamination streaks invisible without magnification. Error collectors prize 1966 quarters for a series of die cracks, die chips, and the occasional double die obverse. The doubled 66 date can appear on a handful of Philadelphia strikes, doubling the numerals so faintly that only a magnifier reveals the shadow image. More dramatic are the die chips around the rim, creating small raised blobs of metal that look like freckles along Washington's neck or the eagle's wings. Broad strikes, where the retaining collar fails to engage and the coin flares out slightly, are scarce but exciting. Clipped planchets, where a curved section of metal is missing, occur when the blanking press overlaps two blanks. A quarter with a 20 to 30% clip can command several $100s in choice grades. One of the rarest 1966 varieties. Picture holding a 1988 Washington quarter, its familiar eagle reverse giving way to subtle clues that could mean the difference between mere spare change and a four-figure marvel. We're about to peel back the layers of minting quirks, clutch onto auction highlights, and explore how grading can send value soaring. Stick around, because the story of this 1988 issue isn't just about silver content or face value. It's about the thrill of discovery that comes with spotting an error few collectors ever notice. It all began in 1988, the U.S. Mint's second year issuing clad quarters without silver content, a decision rooted in cost-saving measures and evolving public demand. Even as copper-nickel composition took over, the Mint kept the Washington quarter design largely unchanged. George's profile still dominating the obverse, and the heraldic eagle on the reverse, wings spread, clutching arrows and an olive branch. Yet right here, in this transitional phase, is where minting idiosyncrasies crept in. Blank planchets, grease contamination, and misaligned dies sometimes combine to yield anomalies. Collectors who appreciate the nuance of modern mint errors know that sometimes the simplest designs produce the most intriguing misstrikes. Tracking this quarter's origin story leads straight to the Denver and Philadelphia mints, marked with a small D or no mint mark at all for Philly pieces. Most 1988 quarters rolled out without incident, destined for change machines and the inevitable friction of pocket life. However, quality control wasn't infallible. A handful of planchets bore lamination flaws, layers of the copper-nickel sandwich separating ever so slightly, creating raised edges or flaking spots. At other times, striking pressure varied just enough to leave ghostly doubling on letters and numerals, a classic double die error. These subtle quirks are the stepping stones that usher a common quarter into the realm of rarity. Now, what makes that misalignment or planchet fault elevate the 1988 quarter status? Collectors prize consistency and perfection in modern issues, so any deviation from the standard becomes a beacon for eyes trained in precision. The lamination splits might only affect a few thousand pieces out of the millions produced, but those few are the ones that survive inspection and enter circulation virtually unnoticed. Double die obverse, with slightly thicker lines on Liberty or a subtly duplicated date, draw even more attention. It's the interplay of scarcity, visual appeal, and market demand that transforms these mint hiccups into collector gold. Turning to current market values, a circulation strike 1988 quarter without errors generally fetches its face value or just above. Yet on auction floors, certified examples displaying clear lamination flake or dramatic doubling have leapt into the low hundreds. Notable sales include a PCGS MS 65-plus lamination error quarter that went for just over $350 in late 2023, and an NGC-certified double die obverse piece that commanded nearly $500 earlier this year. These figures may climb as awareness grows, especially among collectors focused on post-1964 clad issues, which have seen a surge in niche interest and hobbyist investment. Beyond the numbers, there's a human element woven into these coins' journeys. One collector recounted finding a small stack of 1988 quarters in an old cigar box inherited from his grandfather. Among them was a coin displaying an off-center strike so dramatic that the date sat partially in the rim. That find sparked a lifelong passion for error collecting and eventually led him to trade for a complete set of bicentennial error halves. Stories like that remind us that, while grading and auction catalogs matter, the thrill of discovery often starts with a serendipitous moment and a knowing glance under a loupe. When it comes to condition, the gulf between mint state and circulated examples could not be more pronounced. A pristine MS 67 traffic stopping lamination error quarter might command 5 or 6 times the price of a similar error in XF 45 grade, where wear has dulled the split layer or softened the doubled lines. In circulated grades, dark toning can sometimes accentuate lamination flakes, creating a dramatic appearance that appeals to eye catchers. Yet heavy scratches or rim nicks will invariably knock several tiers off the price ladder. For those hunting slab treasures, aiming for MS 63 or higher is key. Below that, you risk paying premiums for details that wear obscures. As you handle a 1988 quarter under magnification, pay attention to how the planchet surface interacts with light. A crisp die doubling on the obverse, "In God We Trust," will show crisp, parallel bands. Lamination flaws will lift in ragged crescents along the periphery. Learning to spot these traits in pocket change can turn casual coin checking into a rewarding routine. It's a blend of patience, technique, and that spark of curiosity that keeps seasoned collectors scanning every roll. By exploring these minor yet meaningful variations, you tap into a corner of numismatics where discovery remains ripe and potential value lingers just beneath the surface. Whether you're an avid error enthusiast or someone uncovering these quirks for the first time, the 1988 Washington quarter holds more than just the imprint of a founding father. It carries the story of minting transitions, manufacturing imperfections, and the collector spirit that transforms everyday change into prized artifacts. Keep your eyes peeled, your loupe ready, and your passion burning, because the next remarkable find might just be a flip away. Sliding from the quirks of 1988 right into the subtler oddities of its immediate predecessor, the 1987 Washington quarter hides its own set of surprises beneath that familiar profile of a founding father. As production ramped up to meet growing change demands, the U.S. Mint still grappled with the margins of perfection. Hunt for a 1987 clad quarter, and you might stumble on anomalies that slipped past quality checks. A faint doubling here, a misplaced mint mark there, or a layer peel that gives the coin an unexpectedly dramatic edge. It's in those imperfect details that 5 decades of demand for modern errors find fertile ground. Produced in vast quantities across Philadelphia and Denver, the 1987 issue marks a moment when the clad composition, pure copper cores sandwiched by nickel, was already well established. The mint's machinery hummed through hundreds of millions of planchets, but high-speed presses and tight tolerances don't guarantee absolute uniformity. A careless piece of grease coating the die could translate into a die clash, where metal from one working surface embeds into another. What results is a whisper of extra lines or ghostly impressions echoing George Washington's haircut or the motto, E pluribus unum. Any collector worth their loop knows that Philadelphia pieces carry no mint mark, while Denver examples proudly bear the tiny D just above the bow on the reverse. Yet mint marks themselves didn't escape the era's hiccups. A handful of coins show what specialists call a weak D, where insufficient striking pressure left the letter faint or incomplete. Those subtle variances draw keen-eyed collectors who track mint mark strength across issues. A bold, sharply struck D in MS 65 grade may pull in a modest premium, but a barely there mint mark, sitting like a whisper on the coin's surface, can be vastly more elusive. Among the most sought-after anomalies for this year is the infamous bow tie die crack. Early in Denver's 1987 run, a minute fracture in the reverse die's ribbon area spread with each strike, creating a zigzag fissure that resembles a tiny bow tie tucked under the eagle's arrow clutches. In circulated coins, this crack can be overlooked or worn smooth. Under a grade of EF 40, it might be nothing more than a faint line. However, in high grades, where fields remain polished and devices crisp, that crack stands out in stark relief, enough to propel value from mere face value into the low hundreds when encapsulated by PCGS or NGC. Prices for a standard, flawless 1987 quarter run just above face value, with raw mint state examples trading for $2 or $3 apiece. Yet error variants command far more attention. A PCGS MS 66 Plus with a pronounced die crack sold for $275 in mid-2024, while an NGC certified MS 65 showing subtle doubling on quarter dollar fetched $190 in a spring auction. Layer splitting faults, where the nickel layer lifts to expose the rosy copper core, have seen bids pushing $150 for sharply defined examples. Tracking auction archives and dealer lists reveals a clear pattern. The rarer the error and the higher the grade, the wider the gap from pocket change to prized artifact. Peeling back another layer of stories, collectors recount how these cracked reverses sometimes reveal themselves in the oddest places. One enthusiast discovered his prize in a forgotten box of mixed-date quarters purchased at a garage sale. His 1987 quarter, struck with that bow tie crack and boasting lightly toned fields, sparked a flurry of offers that ended in a trade for a near-complete run of bicentennial halves. His find reinforces a simple truth. Keeping even the most mundane pocket change under occasional scrutiny can yield a dramatic payoff. Digging deeper into condition-related valuations, an MS 67 bow tie crack quarter remains a unicorn. Only a handful are known and slabbed. Such specimens have driven hammer prices over $500 at specialty error coin auctions, where passionate bidders recognize that extreme rarity merits steep premiums. Drop even a grade or two to MS 64, and you still see coins comfortably crossing the $200 threshold. In comparison, circulated grades show more nuance. An XF 45 with a clear die line might clear $50, but AG 3 pieces sell for little more than face value, the crack all but erased by years of wear. The magic lies not only in the crack. Double die obverse from this year remain an underappreciated category. A subtle double stroke on Liberty or In God We Trust can lurk in plain sight until caught under magnification. The effect is delicate and easily mistaken for die polishing remnants. Yet certified examples by PCGS and NGC show that only a few thousand at most bear this trait. Those collectors who specialize in doubled dies often pay premiums of 3 to 5 times the basal value of a standard quarter. There's also the tale of this satin finish trial piece, a lone example rumored to have emerged from the Philadelphia Mint's experimental vaults. Unlike the typical proof-like or business strikes, this experimental strike purportedly exhibits a satiny sheen across both obverse and reverse, without the mirror fields or frosted devices of a proof coin. Its existence remains a whispered legend among specialists. No slabbed satin trial 1987 quarter has ever surfaced for public sale. Yet the story underscores collector fascination with anything that deviates from the norm. As you cradle a 1987 quarter under your loupe, watch for variation in toning as well. Natural toning can accentuate die cracks, lending them a golden brown halo that contrasts with remaining silver-white fields. Graders note that eye appeal and toned error coins can fetch higher prices, provided the toning is even and free of corrosive spots. That delicate balance of error visibility and aesthetic charm explains why some toned error quarters trade even higher than their untuned counterparts, particularly when the coloration frames, rather than obscures, the defining anomaly. For anyone entrenched in modern error collecting, the 1987 Washington quarter represents both a familiar battlefield and a frontier of untapped potential. Whether you're drawn by the drama of the bowtie die crack, the intrigue of weak mint marks, or the subtle allure of doubled dies and layer splits, this issue rewards persistence. Sifting through rolls, peering at each face under oblique light, and tracking auction archives are all part of the journey. The payoff isn't just monetary. It's the thrill of revealing stories that unfolded beneath a steam-pressed die over 30 years ago. In the end, a single 1987 clad quarter can connect you to a hidden chapter of U.S. mint production, a moment when speed and precision battled imperfections, and when each misstrike carried the potential to ignite a collector's passion. Keep an eye trained on your change. Let curiosity guide your search. And remember that the next remarkable find could slip into your palm at any moment. Texture and core composition occasionally led to thin layers peeling away, creating raised foils or flaked regions that gleam differently under angled light. These flaws may present as a small, crescent-shaped ribbon of exposed copper or as a larger delamination patch across the coin's face. In either case, the effect is unmistakable, catching the eye of anyone examining change with a loupe. A circulated 1980 lamination error quarter might only command $30 to $50, depending on the size and location of the split. Yet in mint state, where fields remain untouched, premiums rise swiftly. An NGC-MS 66 lamination error quarter brought $310 at auction in February, while an MS 67 example topped $450 in a spring collector's sale. Condition dictates value more sharply here than with broad strikes, since any scratching or rim nicks can obscure the split and dampen its appeal. Another exciting variant involves the mint mark placement on Denver-struck quarters. On rare occasions, the tiny D that belongs centered above the bow on the reverse ribbon dipped ever so slightly, resting closer to the letter A in quarter. At first glance, the mint mark placement might seem negligible, but collectors identify these off-center mint marks as distinct subtypes. A clear, well-centered misplacement in MS 65 sells for around $150, while a sharply struck, dramatically shifted mint mark graded MS 66 has crossed the $300 threshold. Die cracks and die breaks also make their presence felt on 1980 quarters. As dies age, they develop fissures that imprint on subsequent strikes, sometimes yielding lines that trace across the obverse or reverse in jagged patterns. The most notable 1980 die crack runs from George Washington's neck into the letter R of Liberty, creating a spiderweb-like effect in high grades. Certified pieces showcasing this crack in MS 64 or higher can change hands for $200 or more, particularly when the lines remain bold rather than worn thin by circulation. The tale of a legendary 1980 doubled die reverse persists among hardcore error enthusiasts. Supposedly, some quarters showcase a faint doubling of eagle feathers and ribbon scrolls, hinting at die rotation mishaps or misalignments during hubbing. While no such coin has yet been slabbed by major services, whispered rumors from die hunting communities keep hope alive. If one surfaces, expect bidding wars that dwarf current auction records for more established 1980 anomalies. Beyond mechanical errors, another dimension of value emerges through coin toning. Natural toning on 1980 quarters can range from subtle amber highlights along the rim to deep blue-green patinas stretching across fields. On error coins, toning can dramatize flaws, highlighting the expanded edges of broad strikes or accentuating the contrast between nickel and copper in lamination splits. Collectors often pay extra for error coins with eye-catching toning, provided the hues are uniform and free of corrosive spotting. Of course, condition remains king. A raw, ungraded error quarter might intrigue pocket change spelunkers, but submission to PCGS or NGC can vault value into collectible territory. For broad strikes and lamination errors, aim for MS 65 or higher to secure attention from serious buyers. In lower grades, negative 55 Australian dollars or XF 40, the same broad strike might trade for $80 and a lamination flaw for $25. Yet, even in worn conditions, these errors hold more allure than typical circulation strikes, maintaining a steady premium over face value. Scouring rolls for 1980 quarters can feel like searching for a needle in a haystack, but modern tools make the hunt manageable. High-resolution photographs of known errors are readily available online, helping collectors train their eyes. A simple flip under an angled LED light can reveal broad strike expansions or lamination ridges. For mint-mark shifts and die cracks, a 5x loop often suffices, doubling hunt's benefit from 10x magnification to tease out subtle die rotations. If you're assembling an error-focused collection, the 1980 Washington quarter stands as a prime candidate. Its anomalies span a spectrum from dramatic to elusive, catering to both visual thrill seekers and die-centric specialists. With market interest in modern errors climbing steadily, securing a high-grade broad strike or lamination split now could yield substantial appreciation over the coming years. More than just change, these coins encapsulate the story of a mint grappling with mass production, quality control, and the enduring